Hello people, this is Mark and Lara from Kharischangeworks. Guys, hope you're all well. If you're a regular follower of the channel and keep up to date with the videos, you would note that Lara and I had spoken about cognitive dissonance in our previous video. Now, just to recap, cognitive dissonance is this tension that builds up in your mind, where you know what is true and factual over here, and it is bamboozled and bombed and threatened and challenged with new, potentially contradictory information here. And the two clash, creating tension. And we spoke about how narcissists and corrosive people employ it as a tactic alongside gaslighting, because they're virtually the same, albeit that there are subtle differences, in order to get you to that point where you break so that they can continue to destroy you.
Correct.
Pretty much, that's what we spoke about. Today, we want to talk about how and what is it that you need to do to get rid of that jackhammer effect in your head, that constant pressure that seems unending, where it feels like you are going crazy. What do we have to do to break it, and how do we get away from it? So, Lara, would you like to offer us some thoughts? What do you think?
Yes, I think the first important thing is to find out who you really are, what your beliefs are, almost to do a pro and cons list. Sit down and write down what you actually believe, that you know is true in your life. Okay. And then when you've got all this other stuff, that'll kind of become your anchor, because that reminds you who you really are. And then you can slowly, and on the one side, write down all the lies and start. I know you do it in your head, but physically ticking it off and scratching it out. Actually, for me, that worked, because it kind of was the final thing, like, that's not true, you know, and it gets your head in perspective, because you compromise who you are. You become another person who you really are not, you know, and so that's what I did to try and get through the mush and the mud and everything else that was thrown.
Yeah.
So
it's a bit of a admin exercise to a pro and cons.
Yeah.
Admin guys, you know what to do. But it's true. I've often said, and I say this to my children too, you need to find out who you are, what you're about, and what motivates you. Once you identify who you truly are, here, your core, then it's easy to identify what's going on. And when that negativity comes, believe me, it takes a while before you actually realize what's going on.
correct.
Because it degrades you. It's like, how can I say, here's a piece of paper and it's just rubbing it. And initially, nothing happens. But if I continue doing that for, say, an hour or 2 hours, I do a bit of this and I rub a little bit more. Eventually, the integrity of the paper is going to start breaking down. And as soon as the integrity of the paper starts breaking down, within a very short period of time, there will be a hole through the paper.
True.
Yeah. And this is what cognitive dissonance is aimed at doing. The narc, the toxic person, will rob you in that area where they believe you are vulnerable. They might say something like, "You're an honest person, aren't you?" "Yes." "Did you steal when you were a child?" "Yeah." "That makes you a thief." "Did you tell lies when you were a kid, trying to get out of trouble at school, to your parents, to a friend?" "Yeah." "Well, that makes you a liar." Albeit that was then, and you've grown out of that phase. But because they've said it and you think about it logically, yeah, well, hang on. Now, am I a liar? Am I a thief? Am I a this? Am I a that? New information based on what you really know. And Lara used the word earlier. That is this breaking of the tension thing. We need to compromise. It's the only way. If you know of any other way how you break that tension, I would like to know. But after 20 odd years of narc abuse, compromise is the only way that I know of, where you break down and submit your values, your ethics, your beliefs. Your conduct might change. The way you think, the way you see things, the way you speak, all that changes in order to break away from that, what you know, in order to try and accommodate this, what you've now been received, and over here, where all that mush is, just to try and break the tension.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll go crazy. And I was fractions away from a nervous breakdown because of this very thing. How the narc will pinpoint something that is truly you and then absolutely hammer you with that, how you have changed, in order to try and break the tension, because it will feel like you are going crazy. You need to go into some kind of asylum somewhere to try and break away from this. The reality of it is, you're not going crazy.
Correct.
You are being bullied, you are being manipulated, you are being gaslit in order to get this dissonance in your head, to disorientate you, so they can play ping pong with you up here and here.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And I think the important thing to note is that the narcs have no mercy. They will hit you where it hurts the most.
Yes.
And they will hit your beliefs, your core beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, whatever it is that makes you tick, they will nail you on.
True. Because this is the thing, what you are, what you know you are.
Correct. Yes.
And if they can find a fraction of a weakness, a hairline fracture in your armor, so to speak, they're going to hit it with salt and water.
Correct.
Constantly. It's like, let me give you another example. Consider a car, and it's all nice and shiny. The paintwork is so, it looks like a mirror. And you go past somewhere and you just scratch the paint off, but it's only microscopic. So big, you can hardly see it. It's minute. and you don't do anything about it because it is only microscopic. And a few years, because of the rain, and you go visit people on the coast, and you go here and you go there, and the rain, and the sunshine, and the rain, and the sunshine, and the rain. And 2 or 3 or 4 years down the line, you just notice that that little scratch is now starting to generate little bubbles. It's no big deal. It's only small. And then you say, let's say you keep the car because you like it, in about another 2 or 3 years down the line, you now need to do some repair work on the car, whether you need to change this or change that. And the mechanic feels and notices the bubbles and does a thorough inspection. And he comes back to you and he says, I think we better do some bodywork repair. And you say, Mr. Mechanic, I've only come to change the brakes in the service. And the mechanic says, yes, I know, but I've noticed something that you haven't noticed. Because this is my trade, I'm telling you, you need to do some bodywork repair, otherwise it's going to cost you thousands. And you think in your head, you're just there to make money because you're a backstreet garage, and you guys have got reputations of being a little bit dodgy. So you do nothing. Another year or so goes by and you take it to another garage, because now your renowned mechanic is now considered dodgy because he's telling you to do something that you know that he's only telling lies. You take it to another mechanic and he comes and says to you, everything's fine except you need some bodywork repair. And you think, oh, hang on a second. I've been told this before, but I've not reacted on it. I'll ask the second mechanic to give me a quote, and I'll go to the first mechanic, and I'll go to another mechanic, just to have 3 quotes so we can see. And it ends up being a massive job because the paint has covered the metal being rusted away via the rain and the sunshine and so on. And This is how cognitive dissonance works. It erodes you under the facade of, I'm okay, thank you. I'm struggling a little bit, but I'm okay. So-and-so is just having a bad day. They're not in a good mood today, or they've had some bad news, and how you justify their bad behavior under the facade of, I'm okay. But in reality, they've been doing this to you. And then you compromise, and it feels so much better because it is as if that pressure cooker in your head has had the lid lifted off. Which is fine, it's great. In the meantime, you've done some stupid stuff. You've said some stupid stuff. You've thought some things that is so anti who you are, and the potential of your reputation now being scarred and marred is also great, because Lara, I'm sure you've heard people say this before. I wasn't myself then.
Yes.
I didn't feel myself at that moment in time. My head wasn't in the right place. You've heard these phrases before. And yet, at that point in time, let's go back to the mechanic metaphor there, the example. It is the mechanic that then says, you need some bodywork repair.
Correct.
And in our language, come and see us. We will help you through this. We will take you through this
Yes.
process, to
Absolutely.
sand the rust down, paint rust protecting paint on the inside of the car, and rub the old paint down and make sure that everything's fine, and fill what needs filling, and then put a new paint job on so you can be as good as new.
Yes.
Wisdom and experience to come alongside that with your eyes
Yes.
opened because of cognitive dissonance and how it affects you. And then when you look back, you go, geez, I wasn't myself. Correct. Because you were bullied and you were manipulated.
Absolutely.
And you were threatened, but you didn't even know.
Yes.
Because when this thing is going at 100 miles an hour, I'm yet to meet anybody that can make a decent decision when the gears are running. I'm yet to meet anybody.
Totally agree.
So, folks, this little video is all about when you feel pressure in your head because you recognize that what you are is being challenged by someone that you only consider to be narc. When that pressure builds, it's not nice. The only way to break that pressure is compromise. Because you see, for the longer you stand and you dig your heels in to stay true to your principles and your values and your morals,
Yeah.
the pressure cooker keeps on cooking. The pressure builds.
Correct.
You will go mad. You will go insane. You will have that breakdown.
Yes.
Believe me. You have to lift the lid of that pressure cooker at some point. Let that steam out.
Yeah.
You let that hurt out. Lara.
And I just want to say as well, it's not the easiest thing to do. Okay. It took me a couple of years to do what I needed to do. I think three and a half years before I did what I needed to do. And you go through cycles in your head where you think you're going insane. And you actually say to your friends around you, am I nuts? Am I really seeing this? Is this really happening? Because it seems surreal. And especially if you've been in it for so many years and you suddenly realize what the reality is. And you got to be patient with yourself because it takes time and it takes courage to do what you need to do a lot of the time.
Yes.
But I also want to say and encourage you, once you take that first step, and it's a gradual process, and you do it, you will start getting better and your life will change. Not necessarily overnight, but it's the best thing you can do for yourself, for your family. It benefits nobody if you stay in a situation that is not healthy for anybody in that situation. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go any further because we're going to get bombarded with, you said this, I'm not. I'm just saying you need to do what is right for you and your family at the end of the day.
Correct.
And sometimes if you're a person like Mark and I, who are people person, or people, should I say, it's very easy to put yourself last all the time and keep on putting everybody ahead of yourself to your detriment. And especially if you're in a toxic relationship. It'll get better. It's just a bad day. But when those bad days become more often and more increasing over the years, there's a huge problem.
Yes. Here's a classic giveaway. When it feels like you're walking on eggshells.
Correct.
That's a classic phrase. You can't do right for doing wrong. Doesn't matter what I do, doesn't matter what I say, it's never good enough. And similar phrases. Once you start hearing yourself say these to your friends, when you start recognizing that you keep thinking these things, my friend, it's time to wake up.
Yes.
It's then that you need to say, hang on a second, what's going on here? You've been gaslit. You've been triangulated. You've been isolated. All the tactics out there. And ultimately, it all boils down to a soup called cognitive dissonance. Tension here. And it's not nice. And the more you think about it as not happening, the more you allow it to happen. And the more you think it's not happening, the more you realize it actually is. It's a merry-go-round of confusion, of anger, of what the hell is going on, scratching your head. And when you start speaking to people about what's going on, you find yourself completely dumb. You don't know what to say. You don't know how to say it because you can't verbalize it. And even now, when I'm free, Lara, I don't know about you, but now that I'm free from that, when I speak to people, I can now verbalize it. And they go,
correct.
But it can't be. That's not a real relationship. How did it happen?
Yes.
Really? Is it that bad? No, my friend, I'm actually calming it down for you to understand it's a lot worse. Because it's a lot worse.
Correct.
So my friend,
and I think that's what,
sorry, go Lara.
Sorry. That's what I think people forget is that a toxic relationship, corrosive narc relationship, people always assume they know the best because you portray happy families, or this is what we all fine, but underneath it's not. It's like that rust.
Correct. There you go, my friend. I hope this has helped you a little bit to try and understand A, what it is, and B, what you can do to break away from it when you start realizing that your head is that pressure cooker. And like I said yesterday, or in the previous video, my hairline was here. And I've dropped it all away because what the hell is going on? I hope it's helped you. I hope it's enlightened you with some practical, real life, this is what it is like, experiential knowledge. If you've got anything that you would like to add, in the comments box. And if you are finding yourself in a situation where you think and say and consider, why am I walking on eggshells? Why is it that every time I do something is never right? If I don't do it, it's not right. If I do it, it's wrong. It's not good enough. When you start questioning yourself about what you've done and what you haven't done, have you said this? Have you said this? Have you been there? When you start questioning yourself on the basis of someone else challenging you with a question,
yes,
it might be time for you to have a discussion with either myself or Lara, because we know practically what that feels like.
correct.
Because we've survived it, the pair of us, both in different relationships, different experiences, but the tactics is the same.
Yep.
We'll be able to help you out and get you from a place of imprisonment to a place where you are free, holding the keys.
Correct.
This is what this channel is all about. So, as I said before, please do all the YouTube admin, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, pick all, tell all your friends, tell all your family, especially if you know or consider or think about that they might be in a narc relationship, or toxic, corrosive, destructive, call it whatever you like. Tell them about this channel.
Yes.
We will help you.
Absolutely.
For now, this is Mark and Lara from Kharischangeworks.
Bye.
Speak to you soon.